Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk ETC. So I have two guests with me today from CHAINTHIS. I have Paul Sokoloff and Vera Solomonova, and they'll be talking about their product. So welcome, Paul, and welcome, Vera.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone here.
So we were talking before the show. So Paul, you said you guys were in Russia. So I've noticed there's a lot of blockchain talent in Russia, right? I just see a lot of people. The founder of Ethereum Classic, it was from Russia, and then Vitalik. So it seems like there's just a lot of smart people in this space over there. But why don't you kind of tell me what's going on in Russia? Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got involved with blockchains.
Okay, so let me start. Actually, you're right. In Russia, there are a lot of things happening in the field of blockchain. In different other spheres in IT as well, like artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. So this is easy to explain because we've got a lot of math education, good universities, good high schools for math, and we've got a lot of people who are capable developing something really complicated like blockchain, like artificial intelligence technologies, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So basically, this is practically impossible not to know about the blockchain in Russia if you are if you're among people who have mathematical education or something like that, even 5 years ago. So regarding our background, let me start from myself. I've been doing financial technologies for like 10 years. I was launching and doing a lot of projects with banking cards. So we did the first in Russia launch of payment system of contactless cards like Apple Pay or something. But when I got to know about blockchain and Bitcoin, it amused me so much. So I've started doing a lot of stuff in this field. Of course, it started from mining, and then I decided that we need to create services. So I've united with some people around me and started doing some services that were more for end clients. And then we've met with Vera. Vera was a very talented mathematic.
Thank you.
Mathematician.
Yeah.
I think mathematician.
Yeah, mathematician. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So she was doing real math science for a long time, and she just graduated from the high school and was actually looking where to work and looking for a place. We decided to create a project that will help distributed apps developers to build even more use cases based on smart contract technology that will be more capable with the real life and day-to-day transactions that businesses and people would like to.
Sure. No, that's interesting that you were interested in financial applications before blockchains. You learned about blockchains, and I could understand why, if you were interested in payments, why blockchains would be interesting, right? Of course, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies make a nice way to collect payments. So I could see how that could be attractive. And there's lots. I don't know if you're aware of this. This is just an aside, but I was in Shanghai in China a couple days ago teaching a blockchain class, and they have a WeChat application, and they use it to pay for things like a coffee at Starbucks. And one of, now it doesn't use blockchain, but I just thought it was interesting that there's lots of innovation in payments. And the colleague there, he said he hadn't used cash in 2 years. I thought that was kind of amazing. So I think the future is going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of innovation with payments. But have you heard about that?
Yeah, of course. The WeChat example is the perfect way how people are building some hybrid, let's say, hybrid use cases when you've got the chat, and the chat is also your, let's say, iTunes, and it's your payment system and your wallet and so on and so forth. So the more technologies develop, the more sophisticated they become. I believe that the more such use cases we'll see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and then even another payment story, the banks in Kenya were, I think, corrupt and charging high fees, high prices, and not good service. And maybe you're familiar with, there's M-Pesa and BitPesa, and that apparently really improved the lives of Kenyans when there was competition in using the phone. And so there's just payments. There's lots of really great stories.
Yeah, that's another great example. I mean, the M-Pesa, what they're doing, and there are different other examples, like, for example, Kiwi in Russia. Maybe you know, this is kind of a big company with a billion market cap. Uh-huh. They were also bringing the banking services to the unbanked here in Russia. Uh-huh. So they were putting like cash machines, and you can insert your cash into it and make payments in any place. So it is basically like an ATM, but vice versa. Okay. So it collects cash, not giving it away.
Yeah, interesting. Yes.
So in the developing world, I see even more opportunities for new technologies, because the financial system and the technologies of banks here are not so, let's say, sophisticated and are not so developed as in the Western world.
Yes.
And the regulation is not as fierce as, for example, in US. It's practically impossible to do a fintech startup in US.
And so you're saying that these developed countries are more receptive, or it's easier to try something in these countries.
Let's say, from my perspective, yes.
Okay.
So developing countries are easier to launch, to get the ball rolling, because you don't need to spend a lot of money to pay lawyers, to pay everyone, to get licenses. Most of the services are not subject to licenses. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Now, your product CHAINTHIS, I know it involves oracles, and so I would like, for the benefit of our audience, for you to spend some time kind of describing what oracles are and why they're important for smart contracts. And I'm also impressed because there's not very many people that I can talk to that know a lot about oracles. So it's just impressive that you guys in Russia, you learned about oracles, you developed a product regarding oracles. So it just seems like you're really advanced in this area. So why don't you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so let me try to explain it in 2 words so that everyone can understand.
Okay.
The smart contract, or so-called DApp, is distributed app, is a perfect way to build a relationship within 2 or more parties that cannot or don't want to interact within the current, let's say, documentary framework. And smart contracts help these people stop trying to rely on some legal enforcements and so on and so forth. And they say that there shouldn't be any enforcement except the blockchain code, except the code of the smart contract itself. However, we saw that there is a pain, and it's very difficult to cover the real life use cases with the smart contracts. So we didn't see a lot of smart contracts that were covering real life use cases, like, for example, the delivery of goods from, I don't know, China to US. Why there is a great lack of smart contracts that could automate the whole process and the payments. And we understood that smart contracts cannot, and this is the part of architecture, cannot interact with the internet. Yes. They can interact only with the objects that appear in the blockchain. Yes. So transactions, transaction data, and so on and so forth. So basically, to develop a smart contract that will pay the producer the payment if the shipment is delivered to the client, to the customer, you need someone to tell that the shipment was delivered to the customer, to the blockchain.
Right.
And we understood that there is a place for service and technology from this perspective. And we understood that we need to start doing this. In the beginning, we really didn't know what will it look like. And we started with prototyping it. So we started like in September 2017. And we had a fully functioning prototype in October, I think, because it's not very complicated. It wasn't very complicated development, but it's growing and growing. So now I can call it a complicated story.
No, I go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted just to give an example. How can Oracle work? Yeah, and why do we need an Oracle if we're talking about the trustless, let's say, contracting on the smart contracts? For example, I and you, Christian, we have a bet. We have a bet on whether who will get more golden medals on the Olympics. You say Americans will, I say Chinese will. Yeah? And we decide, okay, let's have a bet. But we do not trust Vera, and we don't want her to be a booker between us. I'm sorry, Vera.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, and
she seems nice. So
yeah, and we create a smart contract that has the following code. If China has more medals, Paul receives all the money from the smart contract. If United States have more medals, Christian receives all the money from the contract. And we both send Ethereums to the smart contract. So it works perfectly fine until this contract should send out money to the winner. And the contract doesn't know who actually has more golden medals.
Right.
So someone should tell the contract we should have golden golden medals, who received more golden medals. So there are two options. The first option, I say to you, Christian, okay, I will send out the result to the contract by myself because I've developed the code, so I know how it works. But you say, okay, then what's the point in developing a smart contract? There is no point because I need to trust you that you will send out the real result.
Right.
And in this case, we need some third party that will be independent, that will have that will promise to deliver the actual data.
Yes.
And here comes Vera, and she says, okay, you don't trust me, but please trust my service. Yeah. And she says, just create an Oracle, provide our website with the link to some API where we can receive the data who won more golden medals.
Right.
Put in the date when we need to pull this, when we need to make this request to the API, and afterwards, just tap the Create Oracle and use this data that will be pushed to the blockchain in your smart contract. So basically, that's how it works, I think. I hope now everyone understands.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Yes. So I liked also what you said about that the blockchain systems can't access the internet, right? So it's possible for like a web page to pull information from a blockchain, but people might not know or think about the fact that the blockchain can't pull information from the internet. It only works in one direction. And that's why there's this problem that sometimes you want a smart contract to access information from the internet, from outside the blockchain system. And there's no standard way to do that. So yes, so that's definitely a real problem. And your example of the betting application is a perfect example of a type of smart contract where it would be necessary to get information from the internet or from some outside source. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. Now, one thought that I had when you were discussing making the system that could put that the smart contract could access information from is so if we not to pick on Vera, but okay, so if we don't want to trust Vera, then we have a service that we trust, but we still have to trust the service, right?
Yeah, right. That's a problem. Yeah. And it's in any way a trusted solution, which we also do not like. So we believe that the current status of our product is something like a prototype. So it can be used. It is already working, and I saw some people creating oracles and trying to use them in their developments. But anyway, we believe that we need to build a trustless solution, and that's what we are devoting our lives for previous 3 months already.
Okay, so that's a noble goal. So you have an Oracle system, a prototype that you have to trust, and so but the future goal is to make a trustless system. I think everybody
definitely.
So how could, or what are your ideas on the way that you could submit information to a blockchain system in a trustless manner? Do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, definitely. We are already developing this system. I think Vera can tell much more than I do, but let's start with marketing stuff. And if you want to drill down, she'll explain. we want to create a network, a decentralized network of oracles, of that will be something like nodes that will pull data from different sources according to the requests that our other people create. And put them and put the data from this request to the blockchain that people need. So that there is kind of a complicated consensus algorithm, because the data can be changed. It's not always consistent. And we will have to devote a lot of, we already devoted a lot of time to solve these issues when the data is text, for example, or it can be a Google search page and it has different ranks for different regions. So we're spending a lot of time to cover all these issues. But to cut a long story short, that will work in a decentralized way when all the let's say miners will mine data from the internet to the blockchain and receive some rewards for that. So that's how it will work.
Well,
I think that will work like a middleware for the blockchain.
Wow, that's brilliant. I have to say, I'm impressed. So the problem, of course, is how do I know that I can trust information, right? But you're saying that you're developing a decentralized way to confirm information. So that's a very clever idea. And so did I understand you correctly? Did you say that the miners would be paid to vote or to confirm?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's a very.
So you want to create an oracle. You put in the amount of nodes that you wish to request the data, to put the data to the blockchain, and they do that and receive the rewards from your commission. So that's pretty simple. The idea is pretty simple, but the realization is, of course, much more complicated, because we do not want to create the cheapest way to DDoS any website.
There's security concerns, but
there are a lot more.
But your idea, I think, is intriguing. The decentralized confirmation of information. I think that has merit. That's great. All right. Why don't we? Sorry. I didn't. So Vera, did you want to add anything to that, or did I describe it good? Or?
I think you described it very well, and I think I don't want to go deep in technical issues about our idea, and it will take a lot of time, and I have some gap in English language to describe it, and I think for now it's okay.
Okay. So we got the kind of the gist of it. All right. So then why don't we now describe your specific product and the current status? So I was looking at your website, CHAINTHIS.com, and I saw that you were inviting people to create an oracle, right? So you have a demo already up and running. So that was pretty nice. But why don't you kind of talk about the current status of your product right now?
So the product that we have right now, it's not a demo. It's more like an MVP. So actually, if you want to create the decentralized application that needs some data from the internet, you can do that. Of course. Let's say so. But we're collecting the references from the developers. So we need as much distributed apps developers as we can to provide us with the feedback. Which features do we need? Because when we start decentralizing our server side. That will be kind of a complicated story to add some features when we are already in the process of development.
Yes.
So
No.
now
Yes.
it's the perfect time when we ask the market for feedback. So actually, we are working with different developers. And we're also preparing right now some kind of contest for distributed apps developers. I hope that will also find some auditory. And actually, this interview is also a great shout out. Hey guys, please test us and say what you need more.
Oh, okay. Yes. So now I understand. So you still want to develop the trustless oracle, but instead of developing that in isolation without any feedback, you have what you called an MVP, a minimum viable product, that is an oracle that you have to trust. But you're honest, and you're saying that this is just a prototype and it's still useful, but you want developers to start using the existing product and right, kind of join the community and provide feedback to help you to develop the future trustless system. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. It's perfectly correct.
And so yeah, that sounds like a perfectly valid deal with developers out there. Also, what blockchain systems does CHAINTHIS support? I know it supports Ethereum Classic, and that's why I invited you on the show. But why don't you kind of discuss other systems that you're targeting as well?
That's our two Ethereums at the moment. So Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, and we're also looking into other blockchains which have smart contracts. Because the distributed apps developers need our service. But for the moment, we do not see a lot of smart contracts deployed in other networks. As soon as other networks receive more and more dApps developers, so we will assume adding them.
Right.
And we will evaluate them.
Yes, and your middleware, this trustless Oracle system that you're developing is something that could work with probably any blockchain system that has a smart contract infrastructure, right? So it could be like the universal middleware for the Oracle service for all the blockchains, or most of the blockchains, it would seem to me, don't you think?
Yeah, that will be, but there are some problems. I mean, there are some difficult tasks to solve. Yeah, let's say so. How to connect all the blockchains, or we're just creating the middleware for a couple of blockchains and stop with that. I hope. Or maybe we create our own blockchain that is capable of working with other blockchains. So that's actually is under deep construction right now, and we have already once changed our vision from our own blockchain to middleware model with the tokens over other blockchains, but still it can be changed. It's very liquid right now, the idea and the realization. So we're prototyping, and we're trying to understand which way is the best.
Right. No, it sounds interesting. So if anybody is listening and they want to get involved, then so I assume, tell me if I'm wrong, but the best way would be to visit your website, chainthis.com, and they can get all the information that they want there. Is that, or do you have any other GitHub or any Slack channel or anything else that you want people to be aware of?
Yeah, the website and the Twitter, we do it on our own. So
Okay.
we actually have the CHAINTHIS project has got not a lot of employees. So we're like 4 of us, and we do everything on our own. So yeah, you can subscribe to any of our channels, write us directly. We will answer within one day. So
okay, great. So yes,
is it.
yeah, I think your project has a lot of potential, and I when I invited you on the show, I wasn't sure how you would answer the question of the trust problem. And when you answered that you were developing a decentralized method, that I didn't know that was just really impressive. I didn't know that anybody had thought of a potential answer to how to have a trustless oracle. So that's I wish you guys success on that. That was a pretty impressive idea. But did we cover everything, or is there anything that I missed that you want to tell the listeners before we close?
From my side, definitely not, but we really, really look into finding people who develop distributed apps for real life use cases. So people who are trying to support different supply channels, different reconciliation protocols for the banks, and so on and so forth. If someone does that, or does some financial instruments on blockchain, like futures or something, you're welcome. Let's at least discuss what you're doing, and we'll try to understand how we can help. So that's basically it. There are not so much distributed apps developers at the moment, unfortunately. We believe that this amount will grow drastically within the following couple of years.
Right.
But we need some of them at least right now.
Yeah. So okay. So for the people that listening, they very much want to interact with developers, and if people need oracles, then they want to help with that. My impression is that maybe there's some startups and they don't know that they need an oracle. Maybe somebody wants to develop like a stock market application, or like you said, a betting application. And then, so they start writing the Solidity code or whatever their favorite language is. And one day they're going to discover, oh my God, we don't have a way to get information from the internet. And so they're going to discover, right, that they're going to need your services, but they might not realize it at the beginning. They might not know that they need an oracle. What do you think that's kind of what's going to happen?
I think this is the biggest problem we have right now from the perspective of the adoption of our service, of the current version and of the following version. So we have started already some PR activities. We're going to have different contests for the developers, for us to become more searchable within the internet. So I hope sooner or later the Stack Exchange will be overflooded with the question, how do I pull the data from the internet to my smart contract? Just use CHAINTHIS.
Right. So this is kind of the beginning. People don't know that they need your service. They're not familiar with the importance of your product yet. And so there's an educational phase that has to happen right in the near future. So I think I understand. Okay, wonderful. Vera, do you want to add anything to what we said?
I think you describe everything about our project, and our discussion was really good, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so thank you, Paul. Thank you, Vera, for explaining your technology, and certainly I'm impressed, and I think you guys have a bright future, and so I just wish you luck on all of your developments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.